So, Mark, tell me a little bit about yourself.
All right, Eileen. Well, my working career began some time ago in 1980 with the Upjohn Company, located in Kalamazoo.
Familiar with
Currently Pfizer.
Okay.
And I have a diverse career. I started on the lines.
Okay.
And then I went to plant security, and that's when I decided to finish my BBA in management, which I did.
Okay.
It took me a few years to do that. I then moved on to maintenance administration, where I had the opportunity, for the first time in company history, we outsourced our maintenance operations. So I was the person that people called, and if they had a maintenance problem, I would tend to it.
Okay.
And I would schedule the maintenance workers to appease our customers.
Now, did you have a priority list when a maintenance call came into your area? Was there a process where you had to prioritize what got first attention?
Absolutely, yes.
How did you make that determination?
Well, there are two ways to look at it. All calls are urgent, by the way. Everybody is important.
On the end user.
Right. Yes, yes. But there's urgent and impact. Impact is, say, a flood. Something is definitely going to impede operations. And that could happen in fine chemicals, too, where there was a problem where they couldn't process the drug. So, of course, that was a number one. We had to attend that immediately. You know, and sometimes if there wasn't someone available while we were there, we'd get a call at home.
Okay.
So sometimes that decision's made for you. Another could be, say, somebody is maybe too warm or too cold in our office. All right, that's probably going to be downgraded a little bit. Of course, you don't mention that, of course, but it has to be downgraded a little bit, because if that were the case, I'd be doing that all day. And hot cold calls is what we call them. They're very expensive. I mean, they would cost up to $35 to $40 to pull an HVAC person off a job, which could be a 2 to 10 to a 3. It isn't efficient. So of course you're polite to the person and say, well, we'll get to that. We'll get it to during the business day. You know, but
it's in the queue.
It's in the queue, and we will get to you, and follow up was important as well.
Okay.
I will mention one more thing about that. I was fortunate enough at that time I completed my MA degree in corporate communications, and my supervisor asked me to put together a customer service survey, because again, this was the first time that we had done this. So we wanted to get a gauge on how well the contractors were performing their duties. So I was fortunate enough to work with him, and we developed a questionnaire, and I put together a measuring mechanism, 1, 2, 3 for Likert scale, and I asked about 30 or 40 people, and it was sent back to me, and I compiled the data and wrote a report, and we were able to get a good measurement as to how well they were performing. And I was pleased. After I left that position, they kept it going, so I was sort of happy about that.
Okay. So you worked with that company. Tell me, you said it was 1980s?
Now we're into the mid-90s.
Okay.
Because I was in plant security 14 years.
Okay. Okay. So then you left Upjohn's, and it looks like right now that you are working for
First State Bank. Yeah, in Decatur. I'm in the banking industry now.
Okay. Okay. So tell me a little bit about your responsibilities. It looks like you're in the accounting area?
Well, I'm in many areas, yes.
Okay.
That's one of them.
I'm going to say it's a small locally owned bank, isn't it?
We are a small locally owned bank, which means everybody wears a lot of hats. I mean, I will be putting together, calculating insurance premiums on loans, because that has to be submitted to the insurance company once a month. And another day I might be cashing your check at the teller window. I deal with our dormant accounts. A lot of people don't realize that if you don't make a deposit or a withdrawal in your savings account after a year,
cheated to the state.
We try to let people know. You know, say, you need to make a deposit, otherwise it goes through achievement. And so that's an important function that I do. And I manage the safety deposit boxes. Yes, we still have safety deposit boxes. And so I manage that. You know, people now. Before I had there, my predecessor she wasn't versed in Excel on this, so she did everything. Everything was on paper. My goal, when I saw that, was to reduce paper by 60% let's use the spreadsheets, Word templates, and let's do everything electronically. So that I can come back, if somebody needs something, needs to know something, instead of driving through the files, I can go, okay, let me check that, I double click on this, do a filter, oh, there we are.
Okay.
So that's
So
something.
looks like you made some positive changes
Yes.
in updating some systems.
Right.
What attracted you to the First State Bank of Decatur?
The Upjohn Company was a family. It started from the family,
Mhm.
the Upjohn family,
Mhm.
and it built its way up. First State Bank is much like that.
Okay.
It was started in 1878, and it had been going in Decatur, still there.
Is that the only location they have?
I believe so,
Okay.
yes, yes. It has expanded over the years. It's gotten bigger.
Mm-hmm.
It's bought buildings next to it,
Okay.
and it's expanded. It's
Okay.
quite large inside. It still has a lot of the old-fashioned quaintness,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the small town,
Right.
which is Americana, which I'm attracted to.
Okay.
And I was fortunate enough, the president, well, the CEO knows me.
Mm-hmm.
I should say the chairman of the board.
Okay.
And I have worked with him on budget committees in nonprofit areas in Decatur.
Okay. Okay.
And that's how he got to know me. So an opening came. My predecessor retired, and I joined.
Okay.
And then here I am now with them, and I'm getting a lot of experience and learning a lot of things.
Okay. Okay. What would you describe as your best work style?
I used to think, I sort of like working on projects by myself somewhat. And I still like that, but I've really appreciated teamwork.
Okay.
Particularly when you're dealing with numbers,
Mm-hmm.
because we all get very close to our work.
Mm-hmm.
And we're saying, well, why doesn't that, I've gone through this a million times. Somebody else comes with a fresh set of eyes, we call it. And they'll say, oh, that's because right there, that's why. See, there's value to that.
Okay.
And we do that a lot at First State Bank. Because
Okay.
we have to, because our workload gets pretty hectic sometimes.
Mhm.
So we have to back each other up. And that's important, the team.
Okay.
I've always appreciated it, but now I appreciate it to a greater extent even more.
Did you use that same team concept when you were at Pfizer?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yes, we did. But the staffs were bigger, so you weren't quite as dependent on it as when the staffs are smaller.
Okay. What has been the most important thing that you've learned and that you're using, well, I should say learned in school and that you're applying to the work environment that you're in now?
Well, I think school, what do you learn from school? And this was taught to me in two different areas, in Nazareth College. And I'll tell you her name, Sadie Jackson. She says, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think school? You think you're going to leave here and you're going to know all the answers? You're going to know everything? And everyone sort of, they didn't really know what to say because they sort of thought, well, we're going to be a step ahead. And she said, ladies and gentlemen, you'll get a little better at writing, yeah. You'll get a little better at math skills, yeah. College teaches you how to think and how to problem solve. And if you don't know the answer, she goes, and believe me, there's going to be a lot of times you're not going to know the answers. But you're going to have a tool. You're going to know how to get to the resource. Now, case in point, and here's this backs me up years later. You may take an accounting course and not really dealt with it for 6 months, 7 months. You have the resource. You have the PowerPoints. And I've gone back to my resource and say, yep, that's how. Now I remember. A little jar of the memory. And the Excel spreadsheet helps me do that too, because then I can visualize. I'm a visual person. I can visualize how the formulas work and how they transcend throughout the workbooks and worksheets. So I think that's what taught me most. What does college teach you to do? Think. Teaches you how to
And
think.
directs you where to find things.
Right,
So when
and
you're in
find
a
things.
situation, you know where to look.
Because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have had a clue where to go to. So.
And based upon what you just said, you've also answered my next question, which was describe your problem solving skills or analysis skills, and it sounds like you already have that in place based upon the education that you've taken, and you recognize that going to school and it's a learning process, but even outside the classroom, you're still learning.
And it never ends. It shouldn't anyway. You should always want to learn.
Correct. Give me an example of a time that you went above and beyond a situation in the work environment.
Well, let me see. Let me pick one here from my vast career.
Yeah, you've got a lot of variation here, working at a bank, Pfizer, and then I take it based upon what you have here that there's times that you're working with Mike Stamp on the farm.
That would be right here is I'm
Your
not
research
doing it. I'm
paper,
research.
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And I can get into that too. But
Okay.
to answer your question, above and beyond, I was also a planner scheduler. We were pharmacy in Upjohn. We went through many, mergers and that.
Mhm.
And I was a planner scheduler of our maintenance garage, where I was responsible for the scheduling of the repairs and maintenance of the company fleet, which was 183 vehicles.
Okay.
Pretty big job. And my supervisor came to me, and this had never been done before either. He goes, "I want a cost exhaustive analysis on our fleet." I'm thinking, okay. Here comes the research part. Okay, I've heard that, and I know what it is, but let me see how somebody else had done it. And so I actually went to, his name was Steve Levine, and I remember his name clear as day. He goes, I go, "Steve, how would I begin doing this?" He goes, "Oh, okay, well, here's how you start." And I said, "Oh, okay, I think I can do that." So I went through the entire fleet to find out what our 3 primary types of vehicles were.
Okay.
Then I researched how old they were, when did things begin to go wrong, how much money that we put into them at this point, and it took me weeks to do this, But then I put together the report, and I found out usually an S10 lasts about 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
After 8 years of use, you should not put any more money in here. Some were 5, depending on the mileage and that. Yes.
Okay.
And that was my broad base to do that. And I wrote the paper, and I had graphs and indicators. And my boss liked it. In fact, other supervisors started knocking on my door saying, "Hey, can you do a cost amount on mine?" Yep, sure. But I had the formula written in Excel, so all I had to do was punch in the information. I had a form, and I graphed a form, and I could usually get it to them that same day. And I'd walk it over to them, and "Here you go, Mike,"
Okay.
So I think that was fairly above and beyond something like that.
Okay. Sounds like they recruited you to help them better their department
Yeah.
and the functionality that went within it.
And I'd have people knocking on my door, "Could you do this PowerPoint presentation for me?" Tony said you wouldn't mind. That was my boss. Tony said you wouldn't mind. If Tony said I didn't mind, I didn't mind.
Yeah, exactly, because that's what he wanted you to do. Okay. I don't have any other questions for you. I guess in closing, let me ask you one last question. Anytime that we're in the business environment, we're always faced with a lot of difficult and positive decisions. But share with me one of probably the most difficult decisions you've had to make, whether at Pfizer or at First State Bank in Decatur. And why was it a difficult decision for you?
All right. Well, this was a difficult decision. I can name, I think one specific is when July 21st, 2005, we were all called into the meeting, and we were told that we were all being let go.
This is at Pfizer?
It was Pfizer.
Okay.
Yeah, and we didn't see it coming. And there was many decisions for me to make. I had 25 years there. It was the only place I ever worked. I never worked anywhere else. I came right out of, well, I got my associates here in 1979. I graduated from high school in 77.
Okay.
So there might be other opportunities, they said. I'm thinking, do I stay, or is this a chance to embark on a new area?
Mm-hmm.
That's scary when all you know is there. And do I embark on a new area? I decided to embark on a new area. I took my severance, and I had a little rough spot there trying to find something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I decided to go into accounting. I was just going to take a refresher course.
Okay.
That's all I was going to do. I came here in 2009, and I did very well. And Chip Weeks convinced me to get the AAS.
Okay.
So in combination with the bank and getting the AAS, I've never felt better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever been more marketable in my life. So it was a hard decision. It was a scary decision, but I looked at all the variables, and I think I made a good one.
And so where does the education with Nazareth, did you then pursue that after you finished?
Nazareth was my first. Yeah, it was after I had my associates. I had my associates. Then I went to Nazareth from '88 to '92.
Okay. Okay.
And I went to Western to get the MA from '92 to '94.
Okay. Okay. So I mean, what I'm seeing and hearing is that you recognize that staying marketable and continuing to educate yourself is very important.
You have to. And there's no more, well, I got my bachelor's, I'm done. No, you're not. No, you're not. You can't be.
Well, one thing that I have learned in my lifetime is that if you don't learn, then you're dead.
Yes.
Literally, you're dead, because there's no marketability, there's no opportunities, and in today's ever-changing competitive market, global market, you've got to be one step above the next person.
I agree, Eileen, 100%. I agree 100%.
And if you're not, you know, I have a saying, either you're on the bus or you're off the bus. You can't stay on the sideline.
No, you can't.
So, well, I want to commend you in your achievements, and then also you were at a crossroads and recognize that you needed to get on the bus and take the next steps.
Because some people weren't getting on the bus, you know.
Yeah.
And
well, it's scary.
It is scary.
It's a life-changing event, and it is scary. A lot of people aren't comfortable in knowing how to handle it, so they sit back and throw their hands up and think, okay, I'll ride it out. It'll change. Well, it doesn't change. They get left behind.
And I'm thankful that I kept going, even years prior to that. Is when I said I have to keep going and keep learning. We were always asked, who wants to volunteer to go to an Excel class? The company would pay for it. My hand was the first one up. But you would be surprised, Eileen, the number of people who didn't raise their hand.
Oh, I know. I know.
That's an opportunity. I mean, that's free.
Exactly, and that's a skill set you can take somewhere else. Now tell me, how, going from the pharmaceutical into banking, how do you enjoy, I mean, what do you enjoy about banking, especially with it being a privately owned bank?
I enjoy, well, I got to implement a lot of my own skills that hadn't been done there before, so I was able to do that.
So you were a change agent.
So I was a change agent,
Good.
Yeah. So that's been a positive. I've been there a year, a little over a year now.
Okay.
I'm not sure, after I'll get my AAS to go along with everything else, if I want to stay there, or there's something that attracts me to the private. I miss the private company, you know, that I'm used to, and in a way I miss that. The bank is a private company, but it's a little different.
You've got a lot of federal regulations that come into play, and they impact your ability to take care of the client.
Yes. Yeah. Whereas I enjoy the analytical part, you know, doing a break-even analysis or an NP, you know, net present value or internal rate of return, and I enjoy doing it, and you can do it there. And it's enjoyable. It's a wonderful group of people. I enjoy it very much. So there'll be some more decisions for me to make.
Sounds like you're geared more towards a manufacturing environment where there.
Oh, yeah.
And I say that where it sounds like your skill set is identifying how to get the best return, and in a manufacturing environment, in today's environment, they've got to be one step ahead of how can they maximize their return.
Right.
And recognize when, like you said, when you've got a piece of equipment that needs to be salvaged versus continuing to throw money at it.
That's something that what I did then, and this is something, this would be a break-even analysis. That's a single variable Excel table, and that's a dual variable, where you can tell where's the break-even point just after around this point right here, the break-even point. If you were going to put together these many units and where do expenses meet revenues, at this point you would have to develop.
Have you thought about how to implement that type of process in the banking environment when you are looking at staffing levels?
That could be something to look at. I could probably do that. Yeah, I would probably do that. Put that, make that suggestion as to how to do that. You know, to find where you break even, and that's good information to know.
Based on traffic count and you know, scheduling. I think by taking on that type of project, you're your boss or CEO would really be impressed, because one of the ongoing fixed costs in a service environment is your labor cost.
Right.
And if you can identify areas where you can maybe trim back or reschedule some things.
And that's important in a small staff like that.
Exactly, exactly.
And I am getting some more projects. I'll be working with the CPA a little bit more with financial reports. In fact, later today I'll be meeting with him on that too. So there is a lot of interesting things that are going on. But I also believe in kind of keeping my eye open and always look for an opportunity whenever you can.
The other thing you could look at doing too, and maybe this is something to do already, is their level of risk in their commercial loan portfolio. A lot of small banks don't evaluate their risk levels and their loan concentrations, and so that could be another opportunity that you could say, okay, we have a concentration of ag and we have a concentration of manufacturing, but our ag is at 75%.
Right.
So if ag takes a hit, you've got some exposure there.
Yeah.
And so how are we going to mitigate this?
How are we going to get a protection?
Exactly. Do we cut back or reduce a level of ag lending? Do we go out and find some other things to offset that balance? So you've got, based with what you've just shown me, you've got some opportunities that your boss could see some value in what you can bring to the table and help to manage that overall banking environment. So.
Right. Well, that's good. I agree with you.
Well, we always have to find ways to bring value to the table, and oftentimes we have to show them our value because they're busy.
They're busy and they won't see it on their own, really.
Exactly. They may see it, but it's not at the filter, because in today's environment they're trying to keep the head above water.
Right.
But there's a couple ways that you can bring value to the table by saying, okay, let's look at the commercial loan portfolio and identify where our pocket of concentration, or let's look at staffing levels and see what we can do to maybe make some changes. But it sounds like people are taking on additional responsibilities, which in a small organization that's going to happen.
And staffing has decreased over the years there.
You have to stay competitive,
right?
Especially when technology comes on board.
Right.
So, okay. Well, it was a pleasure talking with you and learning about you, Mark.
Yes.
And I'm interested to read about Stamp Farmers, because I see his trucks drive by my house all the time.
Yes, you do. That's quite a story. That's another story that's very interesting. Very interesting. And I prepared this portfolio for you, so you can keep that.
Tell me why you picked him.
Well, again, the history is fascinating.
Okay.
It was started in 1968, 168 farms. I know where the original location was. And Mike took over in 1997 when it was 1,500 acres. Now,
he's got over 50,000, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Over 6 counties in southwest Michigan. And he's developed the farms into, as you see there, several different divisions which provide numerous services. The granary is just a home run. That grain has been in existence in Decatur for over 100 years, and he has expanded it immensely.
And so he uses the tracks then for the grain coming?
It's going to be. That's the plan, yes.
Is he looking for other, and there's a term for the tracks to hook up, and I can't think of what the term is. I want it like a boat slip, but it's not, hub or something. Is he if he's looking for other places so that he can pick up grain, or does he bring it all to Decatur?
Well, that seems to be what he's been concentrating on right there.
Because I could see in time the fuel expense in the various counties. If he had other hubs that he could.
Oh, I would not be surprised if he's got a future long-term plan for that. But that's a very, and it's his values. He wants to leave the land the way it was initially found. He's concentrating on the local education system, which are things I value, and be a good corporate neighbor.
Well, and we have a responsibility to leave the world the way we found it, and a lot of people.
That is a big stewardship. You know,
Exactly.
That's a stewardship.
Exactly.
We are the stewards.
Exactly, and there are some people who have forgotten that. So, okay, well, thank
Well,
you.
Thank you, Eileen. It was a pleasure talking
It was
with
a
you this
pleasure
morning.
talking with you. I wish you the best of luck in your
Thank you.
endeavors.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No.